Hi Bible Art Journalers. This is the second video in the Brusho Crystal Watercolor tutorials for your Bible pages. You'll have to forgive my voice a little bit in this video as I've been having allergies and so it's coming and going, so hopefully it's not too painful to listen to. I went ahead and did this little sketch of this paintbrush in the corner, and this is the kind of image you could just easily Google and trace into your Bible if you don't want to freehand draw it. And then I just colored it in with my Faber-Castell Pitt Artist Pens, which are great because they don't bleed through the pages. I'm picking out some colors here. I'm going to put them across the page and they're sort of going to be next to each other, so I want to pick colors that won't muddy if they blend together. So I've got a purple, I have a turquoise, purple, ultramarine turquoise, then a green and a yellow. So this technique is going to be opposite of the one I taught in the first video, which is that I'm going to lay the water down first on the page where I want color to go, and then I'm going to sprinkle the Brusho into the water. So I kind of want it to look like the paint is coming off the paintbrush and sort of just dripping down the page. So I'm actually going to use that technique to get it to move. And again, just like the other technique where we put the crystals on the page first and then added water, if you once I get my first layer down, if it's not enough color, I can always go back and repeat the process. Or if I need to move some of the crystals around with a paintbrush, I can do that. I'm definitely going to be drawing between each of the applications here so that I make sure the colors kind of stay where I want them before I move on to the next color. So I'll show you a couple sections in real time and then I'll speed it up. Didn't quite get all my little color swatches glued onto the tops of my canister, so this one keeps popping off. I love how you can move the color so easily with the heat gun. The heat guns are better than a hair dryer in that if I was trying to use a hair dryer on this, it would just blow all the paint right off the page. The heat guns give you that blast of air, but it's not quite as intense as a hair dryer. These are watercolor, and so you'll notice that it really kind of follows our principle of staying where water is. It's not necessarily going to go taking off across the whole page, especially because I'm not using this huge blast of air, but it will stay where you originally laid the water down, just like with our regular watercolor technique. So now we'll lay down some more water for the next section that we'll do in the ultramarine blue. And I put the water right up to the edge and just slightly into the purple because I don't mind if it blends a little bit on the edge. These crystals are very fine, but my hole is also very tiny in these containers, so it may look like I'm putting a lot on, but really very little comes out, and you don't need a whole lot to get really intense color. The Brusho crystal watercolors are not light fast. In other words, if you were to paint a painting with these and then hang them somewhere near a window or have sunlight on them for any length of time, they would fade. But because we're working in our Bibles and most of the time our Bible pages are closed, I think the intensity of the color will stay over the years. So hopefully you've seen in these two steps how I put the water down, sprinkled a little bit of the crystals in, and then moved it around with the heat gun to get it where I want. So now I'm going to go ahead and speed up for the next three colors so it doesn't take quite so long for you to watch me finish the process. And here's the final page, just with some Mambi Sticks letter stickers from me and my big ideas and some brush lettering. For this page, I'm going to use this sticky back stencil. I'm going to put it almost off the edge because I didn't want the paint to run under. And then I'm going to use similar colors to the tree I did in the first video with the stamp because I want that sunlight and leaves effect through the stencil. Now this video, I had an idea of what this was supposed to do with a stencil, but it didn't turn out the way I intended, and that's really okay, and I could have probably redone the video, done a different page from what I learned and made it perfect, but I wanted you to see the process, what I learned from the process, and that even when it's not the way we initially expect, it can turn out to be quite a nice page. So for the stencil, you'll see that I went back to sprinkling in my crystal Brusho first and then adding water. So this page was double treated with matte gel medium and with the sticky back stencil. I really thought I would be okay as far as the water content running and staying where it needed to be. But I learned that I used too much water, and you'll see throughout this process video that I was trying to build up the color, and so I kept adding until I got the color the way I wanted, but I think it was just too many applications of water, and so it ended up running under my stencil. So I'll go ahead and speed this up and let you see the colors build up. And I think next time I will hopefully know a little better which colors to use that lay down more intensely with less water and try and go with those rather than adding and adding to get to the color I wanted. You may notice I was doing a lot to try and get the excess water off the page, and then to try and add more color, I was blotting, I used my heat gun, and then I was having difficulty just getting the crystals to come out of the little tiny holes in the bottle because we've had some humidity. And since I've gone ahead and bought some push pins and put them into the tops of all my containers to try and keep moisture in the air out. So you can see I was getting the picture that I had a lot of excess moisture. I had some moisture running under the page, and so I was dabbing that up. So I had a feeling that it was coming, that I was getting water too much under the page. So here we go. I'm pulling the stencil off, and you can see that and I was being very gentle with it and still kind of ripped my page because right here at the bottom it stuck and pulled a little piece off the bottom of the page. So it was a live and learn moment. You can definitely see some of the outlines of the stencil, but I decided to go ahead and dry it and put the stencil back on and see if I could add a little more without adding as much water. So you'll see how that goes. So now with the dry page and my stencil reapplied, I'm going to go ahead and try and do more color without adding a lot more water. Mind you, I'm not going to get that clear, crisp outline from the stencil that I originally thought I would get. And you can also see here what I was talking about, the crystals not coming out. I'm really shaking and trying to break up the crystals in the container to get them to come out, and they're just not coming out as quickly as I want them to, and I think that was because of the moisture in the air. I finally feel like I've gotten the color that I want at this point, and it's pretty cool that you can actually let the crystals go onto the top of the stencil, and you can actually get a reverse print. So you'll see I did that here on the deli paper, and I can probably use that in another page of my Bible or in an art journal. And I was really trying to just take the water off the stencil, not out of the holes in the stencil. Ta-da! I like how that turned out. So I let the page dry completely, and then I very carefully removed my stencil so that I wouldn't tear my page again. I used some washi tape to repair the tear at the bottom of the page. You'll notice some color on the back of my page. That was not bleed through. It was paint that ran under the page. So since I didn't get the definition I wanted from the stencil, I went ahead and just used my white Uniball Signo gel pen to give some outline detail to my stencil. And this was just my kind of next creative idea to make up for the fact that I didn't get the result that I wanted, but it gave a whole different artistic look, and I liked it in the end. So here I am just going over it again, and I learned something new about this gel pen with the Brusho, in that the gel pen actually picked up the color from the Brusho and it changed the color of the pen. So I added some alpha stickers and finished the page by outlining the letters and adding my verse. I ended up really liking this page in the end, even though it didn't go as planned, and I will definitely try stenciling again, but with less water.